Okay, guys, it is time for my favorite segment of the show. Welcome to Fun with Fountain Pens.
Here's a house. Here's a door. Windows 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready to knock? Turn the lock.
10 school. Okay, guys, I really like that. Oh, I think I need to adjust the camera a little bit so that you can see this better. All right, today's pen is the Namiki Emperor. It is this pen. I'm just going to show you how big this pen is. It is absolutely massive. And despite the fact that Shelley said earlier that I don't bring RSE into education, this pen is big enough to inseminate barnyard animals. I will show you. This is the size of a standard fountain pen. This is like a Lamy 2000. This is a normal size pen. This is a Visconti Homo sapiens. It is a big honking pen. It is one of the biggest pens that I own. If you look in comparison to the size of the Namiki Emperor, this thing is absolutely massive. It is one of the biggest pens that you can possibly buy. It is so big that it doesn't fit inside things like pen cases. It is a monster. It is absolutely too big to do things like put inside your pocket. It is an incredible pen. Hang on, let me take some of these away and I will talk to you about it. Oh, the other thing I'll need to show you is its nib. Hold on one moment. This is a standard size 6 nib. If you can see that, you guys can kind of see that. Whoops. Let that roll around a bit. Okay, that is a size 8 nib, which is really, really big. Sorry, it's rolling around a little bit on the page. The Namiki Emperor has a size 50 nib. Look at the size of that monster. I'm going to write with it in a moment. Just let me tidy up these guys first. Alrighty, these pens are made in Japan. It takes about a year to do. The reason is that it has a lacquer. Now, the lacquer comes from the Urushi tree, and no camera ever does it really any sort of a justice, but this lacquer needs to be applied at very, very specific atmospheric temperatures, and they apply an artisan applies layer after layer until it comes up with this wonderful finish. Now, the Urushi tree is native to Korea and China and Japan, and the sap is absolutely deadly poisonous. However, it makes one of the best varnishes in the world, and the Namiki Emperor is varnished with one. With it, and this is the sort of the entry level model, and it comes in this vermilion color, and it comes in black. That when I say entry level, a pen like this is extremely expensive. It is about the cost of a second-hand car. However, pens that are made with this with this method are often also designed with Japanese art. It's a thing called maki-e. Some of those pens cost tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. They are a different version of this, the entry-level Namiki Emperor. The nib, as I said, is a size 50. I also have it. I had it hand ground for me. The Q from the Nibmeister that I got to do this for me in Tokyo, I think I had to wait 8 months to get his time to create for me this particular nib, which is a broad cursive italic. Now, a broad cursive italic nib is like a stub. Now, the advantage of a stub is it gives you your handwriting a little bit of character through line variation. It just naturally, because the nib is wider than it is horizontally, it creates broad downstrokes and thin cross strokes. This effect is exacerbated with this type of nib. With a cursive italic, it is like a stub, only it's sharper. The nib isn't as round, so the lines are much, much more sharp. There's another type of italic called a formal italic, which is even more sharp. Now, the problem is with a pen like that, which is used by calligraphers and people like monks that are in monasteries recreating ancient documents, is that they are so sharp they can rip the page. But I'll show you what it writes like. You can see it's very, very smooth, and that's because the nib is so big. There's a little bit of natural flex in it, but can you see that sort of naturally sharp line variation? It is absolutely a pleasure to write with. Okay, the other thing about this pen you probably can't see is that it has a chamber in it. Now, you won't see that there's any sort of difference in the finish of this pen, and it's because it fits together really, really well. But in point of fact, there is a loading mechanism, all right? So there is this valve on the end of the pen. Now, there is a chamber inside it, which is absolutely full of ink. But here in this part, which is where the nib and filter is, it is actually empty. Every time you go to use this pen, it needs to be primed a little bit so the ink comes through to the nib, and then you can write for it. It is designed for diplomats and for kings and indeed emperors to be signing their names. It is not much good for anything else, most people would say, although I do use it as an everyday writer. This pen is ludicrously expensive. It is a grail pen. Many people want this pen. If they think, if there's one pen in my life that I will own, it will be a Namiki Emperor, and as grail pens go, it's a pretty good one to choose. All right, coming to the ink. This too is special. You may see on the page that I'm using a red and black ink. It is called William Shakespeare Velvet Red, and I'll change that so you can see it. This is a Velvet Red. It was a limited edition ink about 7 or 8 years ago from Montblanc, and the advantage of this ink as a red black is that it is designed to dry like blood, and it does. It's a red black, and after it dries on the page it looks like dried blood, and it is designed to do that, and it does it very, very well. It is astonishing to see on the page, and the camera's probably not picking it up, and it normally takes about 20 minutes or so to become very, very apparent. It becomes more apparent as the ink ages on the page. Because of this characteristic of this ink, this bottle is extremely ludicrously expensive on the aftermarket. 3 bottles of this ink, this limited edition ink, and limited edition Montblanc inks are only made for 1 year, and sometimes with the limited edition ink they are proved so popular, and because they're so rare, the aftermarket for them causes their prices to just absolutely accelerate in value, and this is one such ink. I bought 3 bottles of this in New Zealand for $35, $1 per milliliter. This is a 35ml bottle. The last time I checked, these were going for $250 US a pop. I also got into trouble for this. I didn't know that there was an unwritten rule in New Zealand about Montblanc inks, that what fountain pen enthusiasts have been doing for the limited edition inks is only buying 1 bottle at a time so that other people can also buy it and enjoy it. I didn't know about this unwritten rule, so when this ink was released, I went into Montblanc and bought up their entire supply. This made other fountain pen enthusiasts very, very unhappy, and ever since, I have been the bad boy of the New Zealand fountain pen community for committing that, what they consider, serious faux pas. Okay, so that's it. This is the Namiki Emperor. It is a grail pen. It is worth a huge amount of money, and it is one of the most wonderful writing instruments anyone could ever own. I thoroughly recommend it. If you have the money and you want to own a really, really significant objet d'art, this or the Makai version would be a good choice. And today's ink is the very, very limited edition William Shakespeare Velvet Red from a couple of years ago. Guys, this was fun with fountain pens. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to play a little bit more music and then come back with another news article. You are watching SimonTV.